Today we continue our face-to-face series with some of the fantastic speakers from the Nordic BIM Summit. I'd like to welcome to the Smarter Building podcast Jochen Teizer, who is the Professor of Construction Technologies and Director of the Construction Automation at the Technology University of Denmark, known as DTU, where his research seeks lean and injury-free construction work environments. Welcome. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Would it be possible just to give us a bit of your background, a bit of information around, how you joined the university and the consultancy work you do?
Well, I must say I'm mostly academic, and my career was, for more than 20 years. Grown up in academia, and actually have experiences in the US, Germany, and now in Denmark for more than 20 years. So it's has been a nice journey in terms of learning about construction engineering and management, but really with a focus on technology, where I have believed in for a long time to ensure that we make a big transition in the industry that is needed to make it more productive, but also safe.
And from your experience, what's the best way to get involved in this industry? How should what should people be studying? I guess, how do you become part of this construction technology world?
I think the best advice I would give anyone is to stay curious and let your goals drive your decisions.
Okay.
I think don't force it and live your passion. I think whatever you're passionate about is you're motivated and that drives you. That was the case for me. As a matter of fact, as a little child, I would have almost been killed by a drunk driver. Survived, didn't think about it, but 15, 20 years later, growing up, I realized it's an important topic and I went for it. It was really nice and it was a niche. Thinking about applying technology to construction safety, which has been driving quite a bit of good work, I guess, together with my students that I supervise and following their careers. I think it was a good choice for them as well, going to big leading companies around the world, or even becoming professors as well.
Imagine that's a very satisfying aspect of the job.
Definitely, as a professor, that's something you like to see very often.
Well, with your background and also working in Denmark, working in the US, working in Germany originally, we've already talked about a wide range of topics. I guess the one I want to focus in on is sort of the digital twin side. I think the last paper you published was a digital twin model for advancing construction safety. And given the presentation we've just seen again around digital twin, IoT on the construction site and making it safer, can you tell us a little bit more about sort of what took you that route initially? What problems were you trying to solve?
Yeah, well, it comes again from personal experiences working on a construction site, hands-on. You see so many things that simply go wrong or could go wrong, and you want to solve it. And then thinking about more how are projects planned? A lot of manual techniques are being used where you could think, okay, why don't we apply a little bit of technology here or there that assists human decision making? I guess there is an interesting experience on that, and that industry actually initially was resistant. At least the people I've talked to know, we don't think really it should be technology, it should be more safety management. And yet 20 years later, I must admit, industry has changed its mind. It actually knows that the owners, the contractors, the technology providers, everybody in the process of building a project actually embraces technology, not to the full extent, but as an assistive tool that doesn't replace the human decision making, but actually ensures we build or make decisions on a solid information level. I think that's where I started out. And if I can say one more thing, it actually was industry that came to us and wanted to sponsor a little seed grant. It really took very little money, but this pilot was so successful with the former professor of Professor Chuck Eastman. And he actually he's known as the godfather of BIM, at least in the academic world, coming up with more BIM modeling in the early 70s. And he said, why don't we apply that to safety? Or actually, I proposed to him and said, yeah, great idea. And nobody's doing it, but everybody talks about it. And that's where it started. I think it was 2007 when I talked to him about it first time. And actually, we started then in Finland to move forward with this topic with a contractor from Sweden. And it was a great story, in my opinion. So that's where we started with this topic, designing out hazards. prevention through design and planning that previously was just a management approach. Here we actually embrace technology to design out hazards so they don't appear in the construction phase. I think that was the first big step, and I'm really happy that that has happened.
So when you started this in probably 2007, the concept or the term digital twin probably wasn't used so much in the construction world. I think it was just appearing in aerospace and manufacturing.
Probably yes.
Now it's a buzzword.
Yes.
You'll move towards describe it. I heard you talking about human element of digital twin as well today.
Yes.
Just so we can kind of start from the same place, what's your interpretation of a digital twin?
I must say, back then I already said BIM to me is a very static environment. It would probably help a lot of the architectural engineering and planning firms. But yet it can't stop there. Actually, you must enrich the model with real data from the real construction site. So for me, the path back then was clear. Probably I couldn't articulate it using just this term digital twin, which sounds really sexy. Yeah. And it's a good marketing way to require funding, or actually to receive funding. And so from my point of view, coming back to your question, I think it's very important to be creative and move forward. I think that's one way of changing the way we work.
I think for me, the word BIM or the term BIM, the acronym BIM, has begun to cause a few problems. A lot of people still think of it as a Revit model, a design model.
Yes.
The term digital twin at least takes us a little bit beyond that. Still not sure that that's the right thing. But I like to talk about sort of, digital management of the asset lifecycle, the process, the whole thing.
Yeah.
What's your sort of views on BIM? You kind of alluded to it a little bit there.
If I would do it again, I would probably think about what happens last in the project. Well, we demolish or we reuse a building or repurpose it. So actually applying the last planner principle and going backwards, starting out then the very last with the initial design. And you ask for the decision or the definition of digital twin. For me, digital twin really starts out with in that case, planning, designing out as much risk we can. It's not just safety, it's about productivity, it's about budget and schedule and everything, and actually quality, avoiding rework. Another big factor that drives people out there crazy, more or less, and causes a lot of problems. But the part is digital twin should predict future states. I think there's the AI component of it, where you can collect data, process it, and make sure that you actually control a project on the fly. Yeah. Like understand that it goes in the wrong direction, and are you fixing it right away? I think that's a problem where you will still have problems with. We realize too late when things go wrong, and I think technology can assist us in figuring that out more quickly.
I think more and more we come to the recognition as well that data is going to underpin all of this. Do you think the construction industry is in a place where we are capturing and utilizing data well enough to feed a digital twin? The end results of a digital twin, strategic decisions that can be made at the back of that are great. But do we have the underlying data to enable?
It depends on what role you have in a project. If you're a planner, and we heard it around here from many, yes, probably you have, or you can get access from previous projects. And for many topics, you don't. Like the construction phase, a lot of data exists. We simply don't have the tools to record it. And yet many end users, or actually the people who build it, fall in the trap of probably following marketing pictures too quickly, having over promises of technology. And I think that's the solution. And I think there's the problem, right? They have high expectations, they fail, they get disappointed. And based on that, they may not return. That's a danger, right? You've seen that in the 80s, early 90s in the oil and gas industry that heavily invested in robotics, and got a bloody nose, and didn't come back to robotics until just now, right? So it's like I always say, make small steps, learn along the way, allow mistakes. If you don't allow that, you probably have a very rigid organization where team behavior is challenging in the organization. People don't feel comfortable, and that limits your potential that you can that you actually need to be transformative, almost like a revolution, change it dramatically, which is sometimes needed, right? So I think that these are a bunch of these aspects that you typically see.
Do you see any areas, maybe geos, who are leading the way in terms of using this digital twin very well for anything, but probably primarily the safety side of things? Is it flat across the world? Are we all doing the same here, or there are some sort of shining lights?
Well, of course, the industry has leaders, and we can be proud of them. They should be recognized. I'm not saying specific names, but they exist. They probably do have financial means to enable that. On the other side, they have a long-term vision, and they had this long-term vision for 30, 40, if not 50 years to make these strategic investments. That's where the general industry that performs maybe 80% of the construction volume, like the small, medium enterprises, simply don't have the means. And yet the tools are not ready yet to actually make it as easy for them to deploy and apply these potential tools that could exist. So I think it's like what comes first, chicken or egg. I think we need simple to use tools, and yet we need also means for people to use it. So I think it's a challenging point for governments, regulators, as well as owners, contractors, technology providers to probably come together to form a good path forward and start again small. Come up with pilot projects. Like BIM didn't come like that. I remember in Germany, people started creating pilot projects, like pilot project for buildings, pilot projects for infrastructure, pilot project for whatever. And people learned. And that was about just 10 years ago. It's really nothing in terms of timeline, but that helped them to understand. And now they probably went up like that. Now they come a bit back down, realize it's not that easy actually. There's a lot more that needs to be done to roll out BIM or the BIM method in the field. Same as with digital twins. I mean, probably overwhelm stakeholders right now with digital twins because, wow, another level of complexity. Ooh, yeah. So yeah, some will stay on board. Some may be dropping the ball. Who knows? But I think everybody learns, and that's important.
In terms of the digital today, I saw some great games you'd created, the gamification, the VR, in order to help people learn. How did that come about, and what do you see as the benefits of doing that?
Well, we all play games from child on, right? I mean, and games are fun, and I think we need to treat it that way. Like a virtual reality game is also fun to play and should be fun to play. I got once criticized. Why do you call it a game? You're very, very serious about it. I said, no, because it's fun, right? And that's why we call it actually a serious game. It has a serious purpose, but still is a game, so it should have fun. But away from this explanation, I think it's very important that active learning is important. And yet the next generation of tech-savvy engineers, and then actually also workers, everybody has a smartphone. We need to talk to them, and we need to talk to them with the tools that they use, and not like me, who's old, experienced, and don't use these tools. So we have to create that, and I think that's where I have been investing in VR and construction safety for the past 8 years to ensure that we also develop tools that have a scientific background, because often these VR tools rely on visualizations. And I believe there's actually much more we can do. For example, collect data about the users while they play the game and analyze that data. And I think that actually will help us make judgments about them, and not subjective judgments, but objective judgments where we can convince them, hey, look, this is how often you made this mistake. And don't worry, you are in a safe learning environment, right? You can make this mistake, cutting in the wrong pipe and cause an explosion. But ask yourself, when you're out there in the real world, will it actually explode because you haven't turned off a valve, right? So I think that's the example we have shown. And I think it's very important to get down to that level where you address the person and not just the task. Yeah. Think of a construction worker who probably will retire with 50 years, the body completely worn out due to ankles and joints aching. they deserve better. They deserve like a professional football player. They need treatment, and I think that's the attention we should give to them, in my opinion. And I think that's my side of viewing this. And we will come up with much more actually on this topic in the next few months, with an asymmetrical multiplayer virtual reality environment where you have multiple trades working together in the same environment for safety, for project management, for electricity, for plumbing, for whatever, interior finishing, everybody. It's a lot of fun. I've played it with my students. You experience scenes. It's so funny. It's a lot of fun, and that's where we have to train our workforce with.
And then winding it right back to organizations who may be looking at this podcast and thinking, people from organizations thinking, we haven't done any of this. We haven't done the virtualization and visualization, digital twins. Where should we start? What's your recommendation to those organizations, and how would you go about it?
Very simply, reach out to us, reach out to others, could be also the industry, preferably academics, but start small, like really create small projects. Come explain your problem, narrow down your scope. I think often people want to have the solution, like the 100% solution for everything. It's impossible. If you do that, you run into risk of failing quickly. And I think if you keep the scope limited and tackle that, you have success. Everybody stays on board, even your internal organization. Often you have to ask for approval to get some money or some hours to devote to a project. I think that's what you should do, in my opinion. And we at the university, of course, can help. I think a lot of companies want to hire our talent that we graduate, and I think that's a good life cycle on that side, to ensuring that, like any other university, that we produce the right quality of tech-savvy engineers or workforce. Let's call it workforce. Not everybody needs to be an engineer, by the way.
And on that, in terms of funding and support, could the government be doing more?
I'm not sure if government. I think everybody. I think it's government, it's organizations, and I think it's important to support, right? Universities are also not free. Like, yes, education is in many countries free, in some it's not. But yes, we need also money to support our activities. And of course, governments like the European Union, they provide research projects, they provide funding, which is good, and it's important. We can't do it without it. And yet I would wish that the construction industry is a bit more giving, in the giving mode, saying, hey, we hire you that, your students, but do you really value it, or do you think you just, sorry to say, you get it for free, right? And I mean, it's fine, but hey, help us reach the next level, right?
Yeah.
Running a university is also not free, and just asking the government to chip in money is probably, in this very agile economy, very, very, probably not the best to do it. I would ask. Well, there's countries around the world that they have a very good philanthropic system. Let's do a little bit of that. I mean, for example, in Denmark, where I come from, we have a lot of foundations, and yet, let's use this, right?
Yeah. You're looking for the construction companies to give a little to get a lot.
Think about long-lasting relations. I know they think short-term, many, because they have so much risk on projects, but think about a long-lasting relationship. And like I said, it doesn't take much. As a matter of fact, and I like this business model, business in quotation, where many companies chip in a little, but all have access to the results. Yeah. And actually, there's a very good example from the US that does that. And I think it's the way to go. Chip in a little bit, and in some, it makes a big amount where everybody can have access. Becomes a very good model.
Okay.
Actually, I've benefited from that model too, as a student assistant, helping establish breakthroughs, coordinate breakthroughs in the industry. And it was good. It was very good.
And in terms of, probably last question, what's next? You've mentioned a little bit around the VR and collaborative gaming. Is there anything else you've got on the horizon?
Well, we of course look in all kinds of applications. Additive manufacturing is one of them. I think the topic of robotics is definitely coming back in construction, because We have a shrinking workforce, and the skills are really needed. And I think the next level is to replace some of these very repetitive jobs with robotics. On the other hand, I also believe that the topic of prefabrication, modularization is coming in much stronger. And yet you need good planning to be put in place to actually also enable those construction methods. So overall, I think, yeah, of course, I always want to stick to safety. That's my life. All of my students, doctoral students, always ask me, safety? Why always safety? Well, it's you're famous for one thing, but recognized. Sorry, that's me in that topic.
Yeah.
And there's a few others around the world, giving them credit as well, which I really like to work with. It's a good community.
Your passion for looking after people and their wellness and their safety really shines through in every aspect.
I think like so many other people focus on that topic. That's mine.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jochen, for joining us today. I think your insights have been fantastic. I hope everybody enjoys it on the podcast, and look forward to speaking to you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.